Minimalism is a splendid topic. It's a great idea. It's been so absolutely helpful in stripping away so much of this materialistic weight that we've all had on our souls. And we all know that the definition of success today is tied so much with what we have, how many things we have, how expensive those things are, how big of a house we have, how many resources we use and even waste. And this topic, this new conversation of minimalism, is sort of taking away some of that old definition so that it can be replaced with more righteous notations. I subscribe to minimalism in parts for my lifestyle, and I can say that it's been absolutely instrumental in my acquisition of so many of my lifelong goals. And I hope that it can do the same thing for you. I am also very, very proud that minimalism as a topic is becoming strong on YouTube, on blogs, elsewhere in the internet, and in conversations amongst ourselves. And that's a good thing, but there's something very, very wrong with this conversation, and that's that it is becoming quite limited. It is now just a regurgitation of the exact same things over and over again. Throw away your things. What things do you need to throw away? Live in a tiny, tiny space. Live in a van or an RV. Use very little to no resources. And that is very, very bad that it's becoming such a limited topic. Because this topic is being overrun with the exact same things, the techniques with which you need to use to become a minimalist, the value of minimalism is being totally overlooked. And because this value is being overlooked, it's becoming what I would consider a materialistic topic of conversation, a topic that's much more concerned with the meaning of minimalism, and not concerned at all with the value of minimalism, what you're going to get out of it. And whenever a conversation that's continuous and interesting to people stays stagnant and becomes about the meanings rather than the values, it becomes a materialistic topic rather than a spiritual topic. And when you have a materialistic topic, it always grows overtones of right and wrong. It seems to be that now, if you drive a humongous Mercedes-Benz that uses a lot of gas, that you live in a humongous house, or that you have more than one house, or that you own a lot of things, or have a great bank account, that you're doing something wrong. And that is not at all true. When I first started thinking about minimalism, it was because I started a company and it was growing. I was reaching my goals of being a rich man, and I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel, my goals, and I was in my early 20s. And I thought, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to reach this, and I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to feel success. So, what is success? And I thought long and hard, a couple of years about this. What is success? And I had decided finally that success was being an inspiration. Success was being someone who could ease other people's pain. I thought that success would be something that could last forever. I quickly realized that money, riches, fortune, even fame, doesn't last forever. When you die, it slowly dies, or quickly dies, whatever the case is at the moment. I decided that I wanted to be a great man instead of a rich man. I wanted to be someone who, when people saw me, they were happy, not jealous, When people see a rich man, most often they're jealous or some kind of feeling of, I want what this person has. I wanted to be the kind of man that you see and you don't have a feeling of jealousy, but you have a feeling that this man is going to give you some joy. This man is going to give you something that you want whenever you see him, because he's that kind of person. Not that this man has a whole bunch of stuff that I want and I've got to go get it by myself. It always seemed to me that being able to be a person who was inspirational was always so much greater than being a person who was giving or who was rich with things that they could hand to you, or even that they could teach you how to be rich as they are, because those things cannot last forever. And I always wanted the things that I am to be things that last forever. I want to be inspirational because inspiration breeds more inspiration. And it breeds more inspiration and continues forever. Money will not continue forever. Even there's the fact that if I have $1 today, tomorrow it might be worth 97 cents. 10 years from now it might be worth 77 cents. Material things have a way to depreciate, whereas spiritual things or things that last forever have a way to appreciate. They grow and they breed all by themselves. I always wanted to be this kind of a person. And this is why I decided to start becoming what they consider a minimalist. I wanted few things, I wanted few bills, I wanted to work less, I wanted less material mental stress, so that I had space to have and to live a more spiritual life. Minimalism is not about what you do, because if I could have kept all of the things that I had, all of the bills that I had, and worked less and created all this space for myself to become a more spiritual, a more actually happy person, I will have never given away those things. I will have never thrown away those things. I will have never gotten rid of that house and those cars. I would have never gotten rid of any of it if I could do it, if I could obtain my new goals and keep all of those things. But as it is, when you have a whole bunch of things, those things have a tendency to weigh you down. They have a tendency to cost you more and more. They have a tendency to distract you from the actually important things in life. And that's why I became a minimalist, and that's why minimalism is so important to me, and that is what minimalism means to me. It does not mean to throw away things. It means to have that space, to have that freedom. What you do with that space and that freedom after that is a totally different story. So what happens when you throw away your stuff? What happens when you have less bills? What happens when you have more time? What happens when you have less on your mind, less weight on your shoulders? Nothing. It's all the same. You're the same person. You just have less stuff. You just have less bills. You just have more time. It's what you do with this newfound freedom that makes any difference. You could use this time to watch TV. You could use this time to entertain yourself endlessly. You could use this time to make excuses and dream about being a great person. You could use this time for anything. Because you have succeeded at becoming a minimalist, because you have thrown away these things and you have all this space, doesn't mean that your journey is over. It doesn't mean that you are now happy. It just means that you have now the time and the space to do something with it, whatever that thing is. And I believe that it's very, very important that you have an idea of what you want out of being a minimalist before you start any of it. Because you could throw away all your stuff, no bills, live in a tiny little place, an RV, van, something, and you become obnoxiously bored. You will travel around aimlessly looking for something that's not there because you have no goals. I'll say it again, it is extremely important for you to have a goal, to have a reason for doing any of this. If you don't have a reason for doing any of this, then you have done it all in vain. I will also say that minimalism, or the minimum, is not an environment that human beings are good at dealing with. Human beings thrive in an environment of simplicity, not an environment of the minimum. The minimum in your psyche has a meaning that means that you don't have much. You don't have resources. You don't have help. You don't have space. You don't have anything. You have the minimum, which in a human being's psyche means that everything is going to be harder to do. If you would rather think about it as simplicity rather than minimalism, I think that it's much better for your psyche, for your subconscious, and for your superconscious to create for you a plan. And it's much better to think of your life as a simple life than as a minimal life. I believe that this conversation of minimalism should be kind of changed into a conversation of simplicity. It should be changed from a conversation of how and what things to throw away and how small of a space you could possibly get for how little money you could possibly get, and work as little as possible so that you can have as much excess time because you're not working as much, into the idea of creating for yourself an environment, a simplistic environment, so that you have time, space, energy, and the creative thoughtfulness to create for yourself a life of beauty, a life of meaning, and a life of value. There's this idea that if you take 10,000 gallons of water to fill a big swimming pool, that somehow you're taking water away from somebody who needs it for drinking. There's this idea that if you use energy, if you use a lot of electricity, that you're hurting the environment of the planet. There's this idea that if you have $100 million in the bank, that you're withholding money that someone else could use for some more needy or more righteous purpose. There's the idea that if you have less, that you have the minimum, that somehow you're doing right, that somehow you're not in the way of anyone else's progress. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. The reason why people think that way is because there's this illusion, there's this cycle of usury that's been going on for thousands upon thousands and upon thousands of years. That certain kinds of minds think that usury is the way to become rich. Therefore, they come up with very clever plans. They come up with lies that they tell over and over. Lies that they spend money on to make you believe. One of those humongous lies is that there's not enough water. If you've ever been on an airplane that went over the ocean, you know there's plenty of water. Then they say, oh, it's far too expensive and far too difficult to remove the salt from the water. You cannot drink salt water. You have to drink fresh water. You have to use fresh water. And that's a humongous lie. They say somehow that if you want to use a lot of electricity, that you must burn fossil fuels to do it. We have to dig this oil out of the ground. We have to process it. We have to turn this into petrol so that you can use your cars. Cars, engines will not move without combustion of fossil fuels. That is a humongous lie. The reason why they lie is because they're getting rich on this lie. Energy, electricity, is everywhere, abundant in a way that no one can imagine. Water is fantastically abundant on this planet, and removing the salt from the water is extremely inexpensive. There's this old saying, money does not grow on trees. And we all know that it doesn't grow on trees like a leaf grows on a tree. But that's not even what they mean. What they mean is money is not free. It's not made out of nowhere. Money needs to be worked for. Money is difficult to obtain. And that's a total lie. It's a complete illusion. Money does grow on trees. Money is created out of thin air as it's needed and as it's desired. It's just that these clever men, these greedy men, have created these lies, these illusions for you to believe, so that you can think somehow that if you're a minimalist, if you're not using any fuel, if you're using little water, if you don't use plastic because there's no way to get rid of plastic, there's no way to get rid of trash, which is also another lie, that you're doing good somehow, that you're being a righteous person because you are using the minimum. And this attitude is the attitude of a slave. It's the attitude of someone who's not willing to think, even for a moment, about how things work. Minimalism, as an idea, is a good idea for the fact of creating space, of creating time, of getting rid of the weight that's on your shoulders and the harshness of the things that you have to think about all day long in order for you to obtain a certain goal. But minimalism is not to be thought of as a way to save the planet. Minimalism is not a way for you to be in itself a more righteous person because you're using less. If you have a 10,000 square foot home on 16 acres, you are not taking anything away from anyone else. If you've seen the amount of land, empty land that there is on the planet, you would know that this is true. If you're using a whole bunch of water all the time, filling your pool, you have an aquarium with a whale in it, and you want to use a lot of water for that whale, it's okay to do so. Less is not more. The idea of minimalism is not to save resources. We all need to get away from the idea, from this illusion, that there is this finite amount of resources, when really, in actuality, the truth is that there is an unlimited amount of resources. There is an unlimited amount of energy. There are unlimited amount of ideas on how to propel things. There is absolutely unlimited resources for us as a human race to do what we have to do and to do all that we want to do. Minimalism needs to be an idea that's all about creating space for you to live a more spiritual life. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope that I was able to give someone some new, fresh ideas. And it's been a great honor to have this channel all this time, and it's also a great honor for me to continue this channel. I thank you all very much for staying with me and for watching my new set of videos.